Hi everybody, this is Jack. Appreciate you coming by. I got a little video. It wasn't a big thing in our life, but it really helped. We had bought, and this is like maybe a year or so after we had bought the first 17, and we ended up buying some of the other parcels too. So it was a few years after we had actually moved up here, and we ended up. We owed money on two of the properties. But we had, I think we had about three of the properties at the time. We have, I think, 6 now. So all these properties are all, we have the 17 acres, then we had the 13 acres, and we had the 5 acres, so all of them today are all merged. They all hook together, so it's like one, big piece, which is really nice. We have 55 acres now, but at the time I think we had 2 or 3 pieces, but it was a long time ago. But anyway, that's when logging was pretty good. It paid pretty good, and there wasn't a lot of big permits you had to get and everything. We got some, but anyway, this is a short little story about how we had logged a lot of property. But anyway, so a neighbor friend of mine down in town, they were logging. They only had I think it was an acre lot by his house, and he was logging that. And I thought, well, isn't that kind of funny? I was talking to him, isn't that kind of funny about, just how much timber you got to get on on 1 acre. But he had a few good, I think 3 to 4 foot trees, and he had the logger was in logging at the time. It was only about a day job or 2-day job or something like that. But he had big trees. Big trees are tall, and he ended up, he got quite a bit of money. I was surprised. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a lot of money. Like 10 grand or something like that, I think. That's when logging really paid a lot more. The loggers were only making, I think at the time it was $100 a thousand or something like that, 1,000 board feet. But anyway, but they were paying, the mills were paying really good, especially for pine and stuff like that. And like I said, I think he had a few 3-4 foot trees, which are big, maybe 140, 50 feet tall. And so he had those. And so anyway, he says, hey, Jack, you got a couple of pieces up there. You got to check it out. And I never wanted to butcher my property up, And, and so we sat around and for a few days, the wife and I talking about it. And we did. I don't want to, I see what property looks like when it's logged and it's not pretty. And I got a beautiful property here, beautiful trees, beautiful landscaping and stuff like that. Didn't want to hurt it. So we had, it was going to be quite a few years to get all the property paid off. We didn't make a lot of money. We didn't. We were getting by, but we didn't. So one Sunday morning, we went down. We talked to the logger that was down there. Oh no, it was one of the forestry inspectors that came in, and we had talked to him, and he says, well, I'll tell you how to measure the tree, so you can see about how much board feet you can estimate you can get out of it. So he did, and you put a tape around the bottom and do some math, and and I think it was paying about $1,000 1,000 board feet, I think, which was really, really quite a bit of money. And I think a logging truck at the time held about 5,000 board feet, I think roughly. So and he told us how to do it, and estimation, what to pay and stuff for it. So we went up to the house and we went down. We have one piece of property below, and it's a big canyon kind of a thing, and it has a lot of big timber. The ranger told me that a lot of times when you get trees that are in a gully, like a low spot, there's the trees have to grow taller and to get to the sun, faster and taller, and those trees end up being really big. And so anyway, we went down on that piece and measured, and we had a lot of we had a lot of big 3-4 foot timber down there, a lot of it, pine, good, So we ended up, we went ahead and checked in, and they said, well, they have this one kind of logging where you can just designate. I don't think they have this anymore, but you could designate, wrap a ribbon around a tree you want, and you can sporadically. I'll take that tree and this tree and this tree, and and leave what you want alone. They don't come in and just devastate the whole place. So that was good, because they just go in, pull the trees you want out, and we of course got the biggest ones. So they came in and they did that, and I remember we brought the logger up to see what he thought first, because there was some guy that was downtown, and he says, well, this is just going to be a few day job. I said, okay, and the further he went in, he kept telling me every day, man, there's a lot more than I didn't see down there. And he was at our place for 3 weeks logging. And I remember in the morning, well, I got a big clearing where they used to drag all the trees up, and they'd deck it, pile them up. Each, like pine would be in one pile, and cedar would be another pile, and Doug fir another pile, And I would get up. I had like 3 or 4 decks, and the trucks get there about 4 o'clock in the morning and start loading with lights and stuff like that. And I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go sit on one of the decks and watch them load. And it tremendous. They were getting about 4 or 5 truckloads a day out of our place. They would go, they would run down, and they had to take them far away with the logs, but they'd leave and they'd come back about 11 or 12 and get a second load, depending on where each one was going. Doug fir went someplace, pine went another place. It's kind of a thing. But I would have my morning coffee sitting on a deck out there, as they call them, and watching all the trucks. They were really fascinating, but it really helped our finances, because we were young and getting out, and we were, payments on the properties and stuff like that, and it was tough on us. We had a bunch of kids and didn't have hardly anything, So we got a really big check. It was big, and the first thing when you're a kid, you don't have any money, and you get a lot of money all of a sudden. The first thing you want to do is go to Hawaii, take a vacation, and all that. And so we ended up, and I had to fight that, because, we had never had a vacation, never did nothing. We're, living out in the woods and struggling to get by and stuff like that. And so I got the first check, and we were going down to put it in the bank, and the wife says, well, whatever you want to do, and it was up to me. And I finally did something that was right back then. I was always seemed like things that now I look back on it, I would have never done, not bad things, but, just. So I says, well, I went in, and I went in the bank, put the money back in there, and I got cashier's checks to pay the 17 acres off, and another cashier's check or bank check, whatever they were to pay off the other piece, the 5-acre piece I had bought that joined. I had a backhoe that I owed money on, and I got a cashier's check to pay that off, and I ended up paying everything I owed on off. Everything. Like I said, everything I had was paid off, and that wasn't, it wasn't too old. I think it was about maybe 30 years old or something. I'm not quite sure but something like that. And that was a smart move, because every time I would, where the land payment was due, hey, when that date came, I didn't have to go worry about it. Just breezed right on over, and the next land payment came due, and it was all paid. So, so I paid off everything with that money, and I had about $2,000 left. So that was out of all that money, but we didn't have any debt, and that was the smallest. Any people I could give advice to, younger people, anybody for that matter, especially younger people, if they can pay their bill, just pay their, which is hardly possible nowadays, I guess. But pay the house off or anything like that, you're better off. The mental anguish is gone. The worry, the strife. You know, you don't have it. It was such a big. The monkey off our back was gone, and I never financed to my knowledge anything ever again. Did I? I mean, a new car or something I did, but all the other properties we paid off in cash and stuff as we had it, and so that was the best move, or one of the best moves I ever made. Other than marry my wife and have kids. So I thought you'd enjoy that. Bye.